Hey there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today we're going to talk about how to use the test blueprint and specifications in the ETS Study Companion to maximize your success on the exam. I am always touting the importance of looking at these documents, and today I'm going to go through a couple of those with you. Let's get started. So if you've attended any of my webinars or you've seen a lot of my videos on YouTube, you know that I am obsessed with the ETS Study Companion, and I find it to be the most important document you will look at. It's more important than any study guide, any online course. It is the document that the test makers put out that give you an overview of the test. Now, let me give you a little bit of background here. When I was a curriculum master teacher for my school district, I had an opportunity to work downtown in curriculum. It was an amazing job, probably my favorite of all the jobs I've had in education. And during that time, a representative from a very big testing company came in to work with us so that we could build common assessments for the district that mirrored the state test at the end of the year. So I was part of the science department. So I worked on the science exams. My math colleague worked on the math exams. My English language arts colleague worked on the English language arts exams. And what we did was we built exams similar to the way the big testing company did, and using the standards and benchmarks for the year, and we built common assessments. And one of the things that I learned from this large testing company was how to use the test specs and work backwards and build items, that means test questions, from there. So I'm sharing this information with you today so that you can think like a test maker and look at their document and pass the test. It's such an amazing tool, and every test maker puts out this document, and it is accessible to anyone. I know sometimes it feels like the testing company is trying to trick us, or it's a secretive process, or they're doing something nefarious, but that's really not the case. This process is very transparent, and if it is a state test or some sort of big exam, ACT, SAT, your students' tests at the end of the year, they all have a test specification and blueprint, and I implore you to look at these documents, not just for your own test, but for the tests that your students take at the end of the year also. When they are privy to this information, they can do better on their exams. So let me show you what a test specification looks like, what a blueprint looks like, and how to use it to maximize your success. Okay, all you have to do is Google your test number and then the word study companion. And that's going to help you bring up the blueprint and test specification. Now, there will always be some sort of ad, and you might see my ads on here. Study.com is a huge test prep company. You're going to see all of this here. Don't click on any of that stuff. You want to go straight to the Educational Testing Service. That's ETS. That is the maker of the Praxis exams. Now, if you have an exam that's done by a different company, yours is going to have a different name. But for these exams, it's going to be ETS. And then you can see here, content knowledge. And I'm using the 5081 because I had somebody email me a question about this test. So I was trying to walk this person through how to use this study companion. Well, this is something you can do without any study guide. So you just click this here. Now you can download this to your computer, and it's just a normal PDF. And again, I'm using the social studies content knowledge here. It doesn't matter which test it is. They all have the same document with all the information in it. And then when you go to page 3, you will see like a pie chart, and then it gives you all of the information. So a couple things to understand here. It's going to give you the name of your test and everything there. It's going to give you how much time the test is and how many hours you're given to take it. It's going to tell you whether it's all selected response or if there is a constructed response. That'll be broken up here. And then it'll give you the format. Of course, they're all computer delivered. So this is going to say computer delivered. And then one of the things that's really important to have a look at is the content categories. So you can see here that this particular exam has 6 content categories. This is a social science exam, so it's going to be U.S. history, world, government, geography, econ, and behavioral sciences. And that's just all of the disciplines under social studies. And this is a high school certification exam to be a high school social studies teacher. So this is going to have much more in-depth content than like your elementary education social science exam. So then you can go over here and you can see approximately how many questions come from U.S. history. You can see that U.S. and world history and government is the majority of the exam. These 3 content categories make up 60% of the test. And then we have a little bit of geo, a little bit of econ, and a little bit of behavioral sciences here. The reason why it's important to understand the different content categories and the percentages is because you can then have an understanding of where the majority of the test is going to come from. Now, it doesn't mean you should just not worry about, geography or not worry about, a smaller section of the exam, because it's still important. But if you're trying to focus your studies, you can really hone in on those areas that make up the majority of the test. So understanding those content categories, how many questions are on those sections by percentage is really helpful. It helps you to understand the structure of the exam, what to expect. It's no longer a secretive process or an abstract process. It's now more concrete. You have an understanding of exactly what you're being asked to do. Now, beyond that, the test specification goes through each individual content category and then breaks it up into sub-content categories and even more detailed information. This is where you're going to want to look. This is going to give you the specific information on the exam. And let me show you how to do that. All right, now beyond that little blueprint, you're going to see something more detailed here. And on this particular study companion, it says discussion questions. On other ones, it will say test specification. It just depends on the test, but it basically means the same thing. You're going to look at all of this information that's in the specification. Notice that United States history, US history, is in the blueprint as 20% of the exam, but that's just US history. What about US history? Well, it tells you everything here: North American geography, peoples and cultures, European colonies, Native American interaction with North Americans, Bill of Rights and the Constitution. It goes into each one. And what you can do is make sure you understand all of this information and you can talk about these. Another thing you can do is throw these topics into Google and look up articles. A lot of times history.com will come up. They'll have some sort of blog or article for you there, but you can start to piece together your own information and make sure you're studying everything that's on the exam. As we move down further, you can see it gets even more detailed. I mean, it goes all the way to T for US history. So there's a lot going on here. Consequences of the Cold War. I mean, now we're getting into the 20th century. So it goes way back when to the start of European exploration to the Americas, all the way up to the 20th century. That's a lot of content. The social studies have a lot of content on the exam. So that will help you here. And then one of the best things that I love about this study companion is they have these discussion questions, very detailed guiding questions to help you understand this content. Notice it even has dates here, and it tells you what to do. Make your own timeline of United States history. This is great information. No other testing company does this, by the way. I have not seen as detailed of a blueprint and specification as ETS gives. So I know testing companies can be seen as evil, but this particular testing company is trying to give you everything they can in order for you to pass. Then we have identify on your timeline, migration patterns and effects. It just goes in through everything. And then we have more guiding questions here. Describe the history of North America before the settlement of European people. Notice how specific. That's why they call them test specifications. And then, of course, we have all these other questions here. Then we get into the next section, world history. Same thing. All of these major topics goes all the way to K here. And then we get even more detailed as we get into the discussion questions, world history, periods of time in which history is divided, the eras and the periods and all that you have to know in world history, European societal changes. I mean, these things are like super specific, but then that's where you have Google, and you can put this information into Google and make sure you're collecting, lots of different content to help you pass the exam. So that's just two of the content categories. But then as we go down, you'll notice that there are practice test questions. Now, there aren't a lot. I don't know how many there are for this particular exam. Let's see here. Actually, there's quite a few. This is 28, 29. So 29 practice questions. Weird, they stop at 29, but there's 29 practice questions. It's a 130 question test. So it's just a tiny bit of practice questions for it, but still you'll get an understanding of the structure and the way in which these are written. So it really helps to look at these. Now, are you going to have to go beyond and get more information than just do this practice test? Yes. but you can use these test questions to help guide your studies and understanding how they're structured, what kind of answer choices there are, look for patterns, think like a test maker, use those backwards strategies that I've taught you to use, and that'll really help you. Now, this is just for the social studies exam for high school teachers, but there's a test spec for every single exam: Praxis Core, Elementary Ed, Teaching Reading, any exam, SLLA 6990, all of them have a test spec and a blueprint. And so it's important that you download that. Also, one of the things that I see people do over and over again, and they're not successful, is they just take practice tests over and over again. They never look at the test structure. They never look at the content. They don't really understand what's on the exam. And they just hope that if they take enough practice tests, that they're going to pass the exam. And for an exam like social studies, that giant 130 question practice test with content ranging from literally the beginning of time all the way through the 20th century, just taking practice tests is not going to help you on that. You have to understand what is on the exam. And that's why these study companions are so helpful. And the last thing, if your students are taking a state assessment at the end of the year, do your best to locate the test spec and blueprint for your students' exam and go through that with them. Yes, it's a little bit of test prep, and I know people don't really like to do test prep in their classes, but students are tested all the time. And it really helps to set them up for success if they understand the standards that are being assessed, the types of questions they're going to get on the test, how many questions they are, how it's broken up. Then they go into the test feeling a little bit more confident because it's not a mystery. It's not a secret. They understand what's going on. So use these strategies that I'm talking to you about today and just Google your students' tests. Maybe it's the New Jersey state test. I don't know which test they take in each state, but I know that in English language arts, math, and social studies, students are taking standardized assessment at the end of the year. And those standardized assessments are made by big testing companies. And those testing companies have a blueprint and specification that outline everything that's on the exam. So save this information and share it with your students too. All right, that's it for today. I hope that helps you in your studies. And remember, I love comments and suggestions for new videos and things like that. So be sure to use the comments to communicate with me. Consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing to my YouTube channel. And I'm on TikTok for shorter videos if you like those. I'm doing a lot about research papers and how to cite sources, and I'm kind of doing some different content there. So if you like TikTok, look me up there. It's Kathleen_Jasper. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.